production hell. Cats. And now the Cats is a movie I never saw. It looked demented when it was coming out. It's based on the musical Cats. Yeah, but the CGI was horrendous. The acting was horrendous. They had a few musical things or musical stars or whatever. Taylor Swift, I think, was even. Yeah, she was even in Cats, and yeah, it's something that nobody liked.
Of all the cinematic calamities visited upon the human race in recent years, I don't think any of them can equal the kind of existential cosmic horror to be found in Cats. Even the absolute nightmare fuel of Snow White's dwarves couldn't begin to touch the unholy fusion of reluctant human flesh and badly rendered CGI fur that infests every single facet of this movie. It truly is an assault upon the eyes and ears, an affront to human decency, and a blight on the very...
It's funny because this film was one of the downfalls in his career. The comedian who was the fat cat.
Face of cinema itself. But it wasn't just the visuals that sank this bloated, star-studded disaster. It was an entire cavalcade of horrible writing, electrifyingly terrible performances, cringe-inducing musical numbers, and a complete lack of logic, creativity, and common sense. A film so bad that it killed the career of its director stone dead and put an end to James Corden's days as a major Hollywood actor.
Yep, his career was destroyed because he played the fat cat. Or I guess one of them. But I guess the concept was cats. What do cats do? Their own thing. So what are we going to do for a movie about the musical Cats? Just have random nonsense. That's very cat-like.
That's just awful. How terrible. Oh no.
There's even a famous anecdote that Andrew Lloyd Webber, the creator of the original Cats musical, was so traumatized by the experience of seeing this movie that he had to buy an emotional support dog to help him cope. Later, when he tried to fly the animal over to the States with him, the airline questioned why he needed it in the first place. His response? Look at what they did to my musical, Cats. His request was approved immediately. But the story...
Yeah, he gets an emotional support dog after they ruined his Cats.
of how this malformed fetus of a film got forced out into the world somehow manages to be even more hilariously disastrous than the movie itself. So let's see if we can achieve something that director Tom Hooper was never able to do. Derive some kind of entertainment from Cats.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
Our story begins way back in the early 1980s with the debut of Andrew Lloyd Webber's musical in London's West End. The show was a massive hit, and to this day it's somehow earned more than $4 billion worldwide.
Really?
I think that's when the craze started coming about more. Now they're furries. Furries became more of a thing. It started becoming and branching out more and more and more and more and more. Lola Bunny destroyed a lot of people. If anyone's seen crap, what was the movie? I forgot. But yeah, Lola Bunny destroyed a lot of people.
Pretty soon, Hollywood jumped on it and set to work
Space
on a
Jam.
big screen adaptation, and leading the charge was none other than Steven Spielberg, who planned to use his new Amblimation production company to make it happen. The problem they faced is that Andrew Lloyd Webber's musicals in general, and Cats in particular, really aren't designed with film in mind. There's almost no plot to it, and what there is mostly incoherent nonsense.
Exactly.
So the project didn't exactly move along.
It was there for it's Cats. It's the music, it's the spectacle, it's them running around in furry costumes. There's nothing to it.
At a blinding pace, and as it turned out, time was running out for Amblimation, who never managed to produce a hit movie. By 1995, Spielberg pulled the plug and shut down the company, moving their resources over to DreamWorks instead. Cats, for the time being at least, was dead in the water.
10 years later.
Fast forward about 20 years though, and things were a-changing. Musicals were back in vogue, and Universal Pictures were keen to jump on the bandwagon. In 2016, Andrew Lloyd Webber himself announced that a Cats movie was officially in development. Yeah, they still had the thorny problem of a film with no real plot, but let's not worry about that too much. On paper at least, Cats seemed to have all the ingredients of a box office hit. Tom Hooper, who directed the excellent King's Speech, was signed on to direct. He'd already done
The King's Speech. he really just ran his career into the ground. He went from the King's Speech to something that was a career ender. And you can't compare it to this. Les Miserables. That's an amazing film. An amazing film. Hugh Jackman's an amazing singer.
Done a big budget adaptation of Les Mis that had cleared up at the box office, so he was a natural choice for the role. Andy Blankenbuehler, the respected veteran of the stage show Hamilton, was brought on to do the choreography, and man, talk about an impressive cast list. Ian McKellen, Judi Dench, Idris Elba, even Taylor Swift were in this fucking thing.
Why?
Oh yeah, and James Corden was in it too.
She likes cats? Well, that doesn't make a good film. That doesn't make a good actress just because you like something. Oh my gosh. Whatever.
Man. Oh, God. Oh, man.
It might be hard to believe now, but back in the mid-2010s, Corden was still considered a hot commodity in Hollywood, so getting him on board was seen as a major selling point. The film's casting, though, was the least of their problems. For you see, Hooper was about to make a decision that would live on in Hollywood infamy and ultimately doom the entire production. The big question hanging over this movie was how to actually represent the cats on screen. Should they go for live action with heavy makeup, or just make them entirely animated? The stage show had solved the problem easily enough by just putting human performers in suits and prosthetics, which is fine because it's a stage show and nobody expects visual miracles from a setup like that. But just like the nonsensical storyline and the hammy musical numbers, what works on stage doesn't always translate into
The real answer would be both. Both. Even Jar Jar Binks, who is almost completely animated, had an actor in its place, and guess what? He was wearing an entire costume to figure out where they could animate, where they could. The answer is always both. You always do both. You don't just full commit to one thing. CGI should always be done as an addition to, not the fix of, not the solution to. It should be the addition to, not the solution.
Film. After experimenting with various combinations of makeup and full body suits and finding the results pretty disappointing, Hooper took the decision to go with a combination of live action enhanced with CGI instead. The plan was for the actors to wear skin-tight motion capture suits to perform their scenes, and then the VFX department would add in fur and tails and everything else later. Basically taking the idea of "we'll fix it in post" to its logical conclusion. Now, you might be wondering at this point, how exactly do you blend human faces and bodies into cat form and not have it look like pure nightmare fuel? Well, if your name happens to be Tom Hooper, you don't. Right now, he had a movie to shoot, and that meant getting the actors prepped and ready for the most challenging roles of their careers. That's right, he was sending them to cat boot camp. Taylor Swift later said of the whole experience, "We would literally spend hours on end, barefoot and crawling on the floor, just hissing at each other."
Okay, I mean that's something. That is a unique take on how to educate people. Like, a director's job is to guide. Is to guide the actors through their performances. If they don't do a good enough job, you don't send them to a place to where they crawl around on the floor like babies and whine like babies.
Andrew Lloyd Webber was brought in to write additional songs for the movie, but was largely shut out of the script writing process, which probably explains why he was so horrified by the end product. Hooper's insistence on recording the musical numbers live on set instead of dubbing them over later in a recording studio was also causing problems for the actors because they had no backing music to keep time to. It also contributed to the film's, unique sound.
Christopher Jones in white
All the major
So they couldn't meet their actual pitches and tones because they couldn't hear what they were supposed to be basing their audio off of. So they were basically just speaking their lines in a random tone.
shooting was wrapped by April 2019, and the footage turned over to the VFX houses to get the film ready for its December release dates. Unfortunately, this is where things really started to go wrong. 8 months is a pretty tight schedule for post-production on any movie, especially one that uses CGI in literally every scene. Mill Film, the VFX house that was contracted in to do most of the work, was soon overwhelmed by the sheer volume of shots that had to be rendered. Unknown to the employees at the time, the senior management had drastically underbid so that they could get the contracts. They were already working around the clock just to get the first trailer ready for July, and the situation wasn't helped by Hooper himself, who, according to one employee that spoke to the Daily Beast about the experience, couldn't get his head around the difference between unfinished test animations and the final product, sent constant emails to animators shitting on their work, and even demanded they watch videos of real cats doing the things they do in the movie for reference. Because, you know, cats are well known for performing song and dance numbers. That same employee described him as disrespectful, demeaning, and condescending. When you go into a conference room, you're not allowed to speak, and he talks to you like you're garbage. The rendering technology was also causing headaches for the team. Apparently, the way it superimposed fur onto the actors' bodies caused it to fold over around the tail section, and there's no tactful way of putting this. It looked like assholes. How the fuck is this movie real? Which is probably a big selling point for the furry community, but for everyone else, it was practically a lawsuit waiting to happen, so a team was hastily formed to go through the movie frame by frame and digitally remove all of the cat assholes. I mean, just think about that for a second.
Oh, it'd be funny if there was like one that was missed, like the Game of Thrones Starbucks cup. That was there, and then Starbucks became, that cup became famous. It had its own character name and everything. For the 1 hour it was there, because they had edited it out by a few hours later when it went viral. There should be that one frame that was missed.
Imagine joining the film industry thinking you're going to be creating real art, and that's the task that you end up with. It reminds me of that poor guy who had to go through the finale of Alien airbrushing out Sigourney Weaver's pubes. If things were tense already, they were about to get a whole lot worse when the first trailer dropped in July. I mean, how can I properly convey the reaction online? Clearly, a major rethink of the film's entire visual design was needed, which would mean delaying the release by at least a year. I mean, they did the same thing with Sonic the...
Yes, and this was amazing. I honestly, though, do want to see the original version just for the creep factor of it. I do. I would love to see it. I would love to see it released. It would be a horror film for sure, but I would love to see it because this is not Sonic. This is Sonic.
Hedgehog after that disastrous early trailer, a decision that absolutely saved the movie. Unfortunately, Universal Studios were unwilling to budge because missing their December release date would mean the movie couldn't be up for Oscar consideration. As if this was ever going to get a fucking Oscar. So the only option was to forge ahead and just hope for the best. The staff at Mill Film were now putting in 80 or even 90-hour work weeks, but even then it was barely enough to get it ready in time. They were still scrambling to fix dozens of wonky shots literally hours before the premiere, and even that version was still full of errors. Tails, hands, and heads became completely detached from bodies, faces weren't properly integrated into the fur layer, shadows vanished or moved of their own accord, characters would float above the ground or try to grab objects that didn't even exist. In fact, there's even a very long Reddit thread purely devoted to the film's endless visual glitches. The world had finally got to see what
I'm getting creeped out just by seeing this.
a Cats movie could be. And well, most of them wished they hadn't. I've never known anything so ghastly, Andrew Lloyd Webber said of the movie. I just thought, oh god, no, it was off the scale wrong. I've never seen him so upset, his wife added. The film would go on to make $75 million globally, nowhere near close to recouping the $100 million budget. Most of the stars would quietly distance themselves from the disaster in the months after its release. James Corden and Rebel Wilson even tried to make light of it at the Oscars the following year by showing up in cat costumes to present the Best VFX awards. Which, to be honest, feels like kind of a dick move to put all the blame on the animators. Yeah, the movie looked like shit, but they were working to impossible deadlines, and at the end...
Yeah, they were making fun, being like, oh, our costumes are better than what it turned out to be. But they should have been wearing costumes in the first place, and then CGI should have been put on top to hide the seams of the suits or whatever they were wearing. They just done to... It's a Band-Aid.
End of the day, the very concept behind this movie was so awful that even ILM couldn't have made it look good. The bigger, more established stars were able to absorb a failure like Cats because they had enough Hollywood capital to move past it, but the movie's failure blew a big old hole in James Corden's already faltering movie career. Combine that with the various other controversies and revelations coming out about him, and it would basically mark the beginning of the end of his time at the top. And what's of Tom Hooper, our not-so-intrepid director? Well, despite his best efforts, most of the blame for this film ultimately fell on him, and he was consigned to director's jail indefinitely. He's released precisely 0 movies since the Cats debacle, and that doesn't seem likely to change anytime soon. This movie really was a disaster of epic proportions, born out of a bad idea and allowed to indulge all the worst excesses of modern Hollywoods. Its failure wasn't just a financial embarrassment, it was a creative slap in the face by a disgusted public. And who knows, maybe they could do with a few more before it's all over. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now.
Well, that's Cats. I've never watched the film. I remember seeing like an ad for it at one point because they were promoting it like crazy, and I was just like, no, absolutely not. I can't believe people actually watch that garbage. But yeah, I mean, oh, that's disgusting. That's absolutely disgusting.
You guys got a video? So bad.
And don't forget to like and subscribe.
Wait, where's that?